Our movie begins with a young child named Nick. He loves inventions just like his dad Wayne. Nick has a sister called Amy. Amy is always with him, keeping an eye on him so that nothing goes wrong. She also takes care of the house because their mother Diana got fed up with their father's inventions, so she left them. After a while, Nick goes to his father at the workshop to tell him that he finished the device he invented, which is very similar to his father's device. However, his father was not interested because he needed to fix the body shrinking machine he was working on before leaving. After finishing fixing Wayne's machine, he tries it on an apple, but it fails, and the rays emitted from the device burst the apple. Wayne becomes very upset and goes to eat with Amy and Nick, but the food Amy made turns out to be burned. Even the dog refuses to eat it. After that, Wayne quickly gets up from the table as he's in a rush to make it to his scientific conference on time. Before he leaves, Diana talks to him on the phone to wish him good luck at his conference and lets him know she will be back home tonight so they can talk then. Once he hangs up the call, Wayne asks his kid to tidy up the house before their mom returns. Nick starts cutting grass while Amy cleans up the kitchen while listening to music and dancing. Their neighbor Russ watches her as she dances. At that moment, we notice that Russ is fond of Amy. Meanwhile, his younger brother Ronald was playing in the backyard with his baseball bat. Suddenly, he hits a ball that breaks a window of Wayne's lab, causing chaos and knocking over Wayne's computer and shrink ray device. Wayne gets frustrated with Ronald and tells him that he must go to Wayne's house to explain what happened and apologize to them. Then, unexpectedly, the device starts working, emitting rays onto everything. Nick takes Ronald to the lab to retrieve Ronald's ball. As they enter the lab, a beam from the device hits them both. Meanwhile, Wayne is at his conference explaining his device to the audience, but no one seems convinced, advising him not to waste his time on a project that won't see light. Later, we get back to Russ and Amy, who notice Nick and Ronald's delay in the lab, so they decide to check on them. As they enter, they too are hit by a ray from the device, shrinking them to the size where they are barely larger than a screw, while everything in the room appears gigantic to them. Meanwhile, Wayne arrives home feeling frustrated about his failed conference. He tries calling his kids, but they don't respond. He starts looking for them. Before he enters the lab, the shrinking device stops working as Ronald's ball falls on it. The kids try to call out to their father, but he can't hear them due to their tiny size. Wayne notices the broken window in the lab and gets angry, smashing the shrinking machine. Despite the kids' attempt to stop him from explaining that the invention actually worked, he couldn't hear them. They start running from the lab to avoid being crushed by the falling parts Wayne was smashing. Afterwards, Wayne takes the broom and sweeps up the scattered parts and dirt that fell from the machine. The children try to escape quickly, but Wayne sweeps them up with the dirt and puts them all in the garage bag and places it in front of the house. At that moment, the children manage to cut the garbage bag and get out of it, and they realize that they need to walk through the entire garden to return home again, which seems to them like a very long distance. So they start sliding on the grass until they reach the garden's soil. Then they notice a butterfly flying above them, so they all hide under a mushroom until it flies away. At that moment, Nick measures their size and realizes that their height is now a quarter of an inch, and they still have 3.2 miles ahead to reach their house, which is a very long distance for them to walk. Meanwhile, Diana returns home and is very annoyed to find the house in such a mess, assuming her kids are at the market. They begin to move through the garden and find Nick's lost toy. Afterwards, they come across a lake with a dead insect in it and start thinking about how to cross the lake. Nick suggests calling their dog and riding on its back to reach home, as he knows that dogs have a very strong sense of hearing and will hear them. They start whistling for the dog, but it doesn't come to them, so Nick climbs to the top of a rose to whistle for the dog, but Russ's cat runs after the dog, scaring it away back home. Suddenly, Nick falls onto a rose and is attacked by a bee. Russ tries to save Nick and jumps on the bee. Then the bee takes them both and flies away in the garden. At that moment, Wayne sees the bee and hits it with Ronald's baseball bat until it becomes dizzy and falls to the ground, causing Nick and Russ to fall from it. Then Wayne is surprised by the baseball bat, and when he looks at the lab window, he finds the glass broken. He quickly rushes to his lab and steps on something with his foot, discovering it's his chair, and next to it is a sofa, both of which are in very small shape. He realizes that this machine actually worked. Now he understands that his children might also have been shrunken. He starts searching for them with a magnifying glass and goes to the garbage bag, finding it torn, so he understands that they're among the pieces he swept earlier. Wayne is afraid to step on them, so he starts leaning against the wall and walking on it. Meanwhile, Russ tries to wake Nick up because he lost consciousness from the fall caused by the bee. He manages to wake him up and they both start looking for Amy and Ronald. We see Wayne with his binoculars moving with 2 sticks so he doesn't step on his children, but one stick gets caught in the garden hose, opening all the sprinklers and the water becomes like a waterfall for the kids, frightening them that they might drown. Wayne tries to hurry back to the faucet to turn it off, but he gets tangled in the laundry line and holds onto it to avoid stepping on the ground. Meanwhile, the children try to escape from the water and Amy falls into the pool. Russ goes after her to save her. After that, Wayne shuts off the water sprinklers and we see him with a device that he invented so he doesn't step on the ground while searching for the kids. We see the kids cleaning themselves up, but now they're hungry. They go looking for food and find a biscuit in front of them, so they all rush to it and start eating it. Suddenly they see an ant, so they run away from it because they know there are many coming behind it. Nick suggests they could ride on the ant to get home quickly, but they can't control the ant and Amy is very scared, so she holds a piece of the biscuit and slowly lures the ant to walk with her calmly. Then they ride on the ant and tie the biscuit to a stick in front of the ant to control its movement, navigating her towards home. Meanwhile, Diana was reporting her children's disappearance to the police and Ronald and Russ's parents were also doing the same. The police arrive and investigate the matter with the parents. Later, Wayne talks to Diana and informs her that his invention was successful. Diana is delighted because his device worked, but when she asks about the kids, he tells her what happened. Honey, I shrunk the kids, and yes, you probably guessed right, she fainted. At that moment, the kids were on their way home, but suddenly the ant stopped because it needed to rest. They get off the ant and Ronald hands the biscuit to it, and they continue walking, but the ant seems attached to them and doesn't want to leave them. At night, Diana wakes up and starts searching for the children with Wayne. Meanwhile, Ronald and Russ's father comes out of his house to smoke a cigarette, and when he sees Diana and Wayne looking strange, he throws the cigarette on the grass next to the children. They take advantage of the cigarette's light to guide them. Wayne decides to inform Ronald and Russ's parents about what happened, but they don't believe him and become more worried about their children. At that time, the kids were tired of walking when they found a toy cube in front of them, so they climbed in and slept in it until the next day. However, before they can rest, they encountered a scorpion that attacks them. They try to escape, but Ronald remains trapped inside the cube and the scorpion attacks him. Just then the ant arrives and helps them get rid of the scorpion, and luckily the scorpion leaves without harming them. However, it kills the ant, so they bid it farewell with sadness and go to sleep in the cube. The next day, Tommy, Nick's friend, goes to Nick's house to use the lawn mower machine as agreed, wearing headphones and unaware of the danger. He starts mowing the lawn and the kids are very scared to death of what is going on around them. When Wayne sees what Tommy is doing, he quickly stops him to prevent him from harming the kids, who have taken refuge in a small burrow under the ground. However, the fan of the lawnmower pulls Nick, but he holds onto something nearby and all the kids hold onto him. But the fan keeps pulling them and throws them far away until Wayne manages to turn it off himself. After that, the kids wake up and find themselves at the doorstep, and they see their family members looking for them, but they can't see them. Suddenly, they find their dog nearby, so they ride on his back and lead it to their father by pulling its hair, and the dog actually moves towards Wayne at the breakfast table. However, Wayne didn't understand anything, so the dog walked away from the table. Then Nick falls into a plate of food that Wayne was about to eat, but the dog bites him before he can eat it. Wayne realizes that his son is on the plate and Nick points to the others when his dad sees him. Afterwards, Wayne tells Russ's parents about what happened and they all gather in a lab to get the kids back to their normal size. Both families greet each other and become close. Now they can enjoy large meals at any gathering. And that's it. If you like this recap, hit like, share, and subscribe to our channel to keep seeing content like this one. If you have any requests or thoughts, drop them below in the comments section and we will see you at the next one. Peace out!